What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be going over some of the frames that I've ridden in the past, dating back about 15 years ago. Some of the frames I actually don't have with me that are probably older than that were hand-me-downs from people that are at my parents' house. Maybe I'll do like an old BMX frame review on those in the near future. But in the meantime, I have 8 frames with me dating back damn near 15 years ago to today's standards. I also have my scale, so I'm going to be doing some weighing, and I'm really curious of what my old frames used to weigh, because back when I bought those frames, they didn't really showcase the weight of the frames. That wasn't really a thing back in the day. So yeah, I'm gonna do a breakdown showing you the differences and how far we've come from frames 15 years ago to today's standards. So if you guys are the old school guys, you guys are really gonna like this video. If you guys are new school and you're just finding my videos for the first time, you're gonna be educated on this. You're gonna see how far we've come in such a short amount of time. All right, I'm gonna try to do this in chronological order. This isn't the very first frame I ever had, but this is damn near close. One of the first frames I ever had where I really started to progress. I was riding for a bike shop local to me, and they had a deal with DK bikes, whether it be racing and freestyle, and I ended up getting hooked up through DK's race team with the whole factory sponsorship with that bike shop. And during that time I was actually racing, and I kind of was in between learning tricks and riding on the racetrack, so I asked them if I could get one of their DK General Lee frames. That's what this is, the original DK General Lee. Well, at least original to me. I'm not too sure when this frame actually came out, but I mean, look at the gussets on that thing. Super overboard, absolutely nuts, and I mean, that's not where I cracked the frame. You guys ready for where I cracked the frame on this bad boy? Right here in the back wishbone. Absolutely insane that this thing was just so mangled. And as you can see, I actually rode it like that for a long period. It just started cutting into it. I didn't have the money to be able to buy frames like that. And these dropouts, that's another thing we gotta talk about. Look at this. We're gonna show some comparisons in a little while. Basically the difference between this generation's of dropouts and today's generations. As you can see, it still has the orange paint in there. I actually went around and I kind of just got stuck between colors. I mean, as I am today. I like to change the color of my bike on a frequent basis. I went from orange to yellow to black and all types of stickers, and I was back then I was pretty obsessed with Britney Spears, as a lot of you guys probably were back then. You know, she looked pretty good back then. I don't know about today's standards, but this frame, we're gonna see how much it weighs. I have a trusty scale. This is the one I always use when I'm traveling, because you don't want your bags over 50 pounds, otherwise the airlines like to charge you an arm and a leg. We've got to zero it out. It's on pounds, as you can see right there. I'm gonna put it on the dropout. I'm gonna hold it. And it looks like it is 6 pounds 3 ounces. 6 pounds 3 ounces. That's pretty heavy to today's standards, because we actually put weights at the bottom, like, you know, a little description of what the frame's all about and the weight and dimensions of it. So this is absolutely insane. So back then, you guys already know, we had American bottom brackets, we had brakes on the bottom, but what was really ahead of its time, look at this. I don't know if we can really even see this here, but this little hole right there, you could actually feed the cables through there, and it was threaded. There's a lot of frame companies that are starting to do that now, and I'm pretty shocked that it was like a prominent thing back then for people to do. I guess it was really to like clean up the cable guides. Who knows? But you had a press headset back then, no internal headsets, and this thing was a beast. Very, very heavy. I also think it was around the same time that I think it was Colin Winkleman had a SOB frame, DK SOB. Yeah, I think it was a beast as well. Moving on to the next frame. This is my DK race frame after I destroyed that, all right? After I destroyed that, I had to have another frame, and I couldn't afford a frame, so I ended up using my race frame. But I was also transitioning from being a racer to a freestyle rider because I was learning tricks, and in that process, I couldn't ride 3/8 back end because I wanted to run pegs. So what did I do? I took a grinder to my dropouts. Look at this. To the dropouts in order to make it fit a 14mm axle. And actually back then we had 14mm slotted axles. What that means is they just had it cut so that you could kind of rotate it and put it in 3/8, you know, forks and stuff like that. So absolutely insane, really, really sharp. Yeah, this is my own doings. But as you can see, the dropouts back then were already thinning out. I'm not too sure what they were thinking, but you can see my doings right here. My brakes wouldn't work. My 990s wouldn't work on here. I had V-brakes. I cut those things off. But yeah, I thought the duct tape was a good touch, you know, kind of stopped myself from getting cut from anything. This also didn't last too long. I actually remember how I broke this. There was a gap in Maryland, and I was going from the top level of a parking lot to another, and I didn't think I had the gap, so I ditched the bike, and what did it do? It bent the frame. I don't know if you can really tell there with the back end, I think you kind of can. It is pretty bent. Let's see if we can put it head on. That thing is twisted, guys. She's twisted. So, same type of thing, American bottom bracket, press headset. Gotta love Britney Spears. This is actually when we had the Britney Spears stickers in those, what were they called? We used to get like the gumballs and stuff like that, the little gumball machines. You would just put 2 quarters in there and twist it. Yeah, obsession. All tubes are 100% 4130 chromoly, but it didn't stop it from bending. That's when we started getting into heat treating. But we also are gonna see the weight. We are zeroed out right now. What we stop at? We stopped at 4 pounds 9 ounces. 4 pounds 9 ounces. That's not too bad. I shaved a good amount of weight off between the last frame to this frame. And yeah, there's gonna be a lot to say here with the next set of frames, that's for sure. As we get further into it, these 2 frames are very similar. I actually used to ride for SE. SE Bikes sponsored me for a small period of time when they were based out of Philadelphia. And yeah, this thing was a beast. This thing actually had one of the first European bottom brackets I've ever ridden. The European bottom bracket is where it threads in the bottom right here, right? It's still there. Let's see if it even rotates. Yeah, she still rotates. I might be able to put this one back together sometime soon. I don't think this one's cracked. I think I just got rid of it because I ended up getting picked up from one of my first sponsors after this. But we still have the pressed cups in here, pressed gyro tabs as well. And oh my gosh, this thing is a tank. Look how thick these dropouts are. Super thick dropouts. This is where I ran brakes from the bottom and started putting them on the top. We haven't quite gotten into the other features that a lot of BMX frames have nowadays with the internal, you know, seat clamps, internal headsets, and stuff like that, but I still was sitting on the big old wishbone, and this thing was a tank. Yeah, I think we're gonna have to put this thing back together here in the near future and do a video on it. But in the meantime, let's do a weigh-in right now. Oh man, I think this one weighs a little more than the DK. As you can see, we're zeroed out. Pop it on the scale. See where we're sitting at right here. 6 pounds, is that 6 pounds 3 ounces? 6 pounds 3 ounces. Absolutely insane. This thing feels so much heavier. My gosh, so much heavier. Let's get to the other SE frame and kind of see the differences between that one and this one. But this next one, yeah, I tried to get a little bit lighter at my bikes. Basically the same frame. So right here, I thought it was a good idea to start drilling here because I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna crack a frame anywhere near there. And I actually ended up cracking it right up here. This thing was another beast, same thing, but the actual bottom bracket is not in this one. This is this, oh man, I actually have another crack in this. This is actually the main crack here. I don't know if we can see that. Right here on the wishbone itself. That's where the main crack happened on the frame. I'm not too sure what that actually happened on. Probably a feeble grind or something, because that usually makes sense where it would get the most impact. Basically the same rundown frame, press cups, European bottom bracket, no internal seat clamp, really thick dropouts. Let's give it a weigh in, zero it out. And apparently, my drilling of holes brought me down to 5 pounds 6 ounces. Not bad. I'm gonna start drilling holes in more things. Speaking of that, the next round of frames are gonna get it really light, and I think one of the reasons why is because it's got some holes. All right, so this isn't actually the frame I was riding back then, but I ended up getting my hands on another one, and I was supposed to do a giveaway with you guys, but the whole pandemic thing happened. I still have it. I'm gonna do a giveaway no matter what. Let's talk a little bit more about it. This is the Eastern Grim Reaper. It has a Spanish bottom bracket, still got the bearings in it, has the internal seat clamp. This is actually when they started to try to get really light with bikes, and they put cuts in the seat tube, the bottom bracket, and the head tube. Absolutely insane. These dropouts were super micro. I mean, look, they took any bit of engineering they could to make this as light as possible. Actually, I'm pretty sure that they had a NASCAR engineer help them to be able to engineer this frame as structurally sound as possible while also keeping it as light as possible. Let's do a weigh-in right now. I'm pretty sure this was like at the 4 pound marker back then. That's the reason why a lot of people wanted to pick this bad boy up. We're zeroed out on the dropout. Here we go. 4 pounds, is that what it says? 4 pounds 2 ounces. 4 pounds 2 ounces. This right here is at least 10 years old. I would say maybe a little bit more. 4 pounds 2 ounces. You have the internal headset, the Spanish bottom bracket, and the little guy right here. This is your seat post clamp. Back then you had to put actual seat post clamp on there. The brakes are upside down. This is actually before they started doing removable brake mounts though. So I'm actually really shocked. So this is the lightest one we've had so far. But my signature frame, this is the one I'm about to show you now. Now to my signature frame. This is a signature frame I had through Hyper Bikes. It was called the Gigawatt. As you can see, one of my favorite movies ever was Back to the Future, so I had everything kind of based around that. This geometry was damn near close to the geometry I had there with the Grim Reaper. I just changed the head tube angle slightly, ended up doing removable brake mounts. Actually, on one of the prototypes I had for a while, I had a removable brake mounts on top and bottom because I didn't want to discount basically anyone. If you want to run no brakes, you can run no brakes. If you want to run brakes on top or bottom, or both, that'd be really cool. Double brakes. We'll revisit that in a future video. Yeah, really tiny dropouts right there. Really tiny dropouts. This thing never cracked. I never had a problem with this. This was one of the only American Hyper frames back then as well. This one's about 5 years old. Removable gyro tabs, you can see there. Pretty straightforward. This also came with a mid-bottom bracket. This is actually when the mid-bottom bracket started to become a real thing in BMX. Zero at the scale. I'm pretty sure we sold this frame, oh man, at like 4 pounds 4 ounces back then. We're zeroed out right there. Hook you on. What are we sitting at? Is that 4.2? No, 4.5. See, I can't read backwards. 4 pounds 5 ounces. 4 pounds 5 ounces. And this is fully heat treated chromoly, 4130 chromoly. Really ahead of its time. I think a lot of frames have kind of stayed around this weight. And as we get further in right now, I don't have all of my frames, but I should revisit them here in the near future. Let me show you a couple of my custom layered frames. They're basically the same geometry as I'm riding right now, except these two kind of bit the dust. Let me show you more. So it's crazy, both these frames have very similar color schemes, as you can see right there. I actually ended up cracking them in and around the same time. I think it was just a bad batch of tubing that he got, because the tubing itself is what cracked and not the actual welds. So Mike Laird's welds are pretty much on point. Let's talk about this one and I'll show you the crack on the tube. So as you can tell, like I said, I love Back to the Future so much that I had him do my little bridge guy right here. That is the Back to the Future car. You see that? That was one of the most intricate designs he said he did at that time. I had removable brake mounts here, removable tabs all the way around, up to the front. Internal headset, as you can tell, mid-bottom bracket, I think I already said. Really tiny dropouts, kind of make it to where I'm not catching the dropout before I end up catching the peg. And here's where I cracked this thing. I've never cracked a frame here, right? Look at that. Right there on the tubing in the center of the frame. It went damn near all the way around. It's the only area where it's not is like this really tiny area in the top. Absolutely insane. Ended up doing a gusset here thinking that's where I would actually have any problems. Wasn't the case. Let's do the weigh-in on this thing. I'm pretty sure this one weighs a little bit lighter than the Hyper. I can actually already tell just by holding it. We zero it out. What'd that stop on? Is that 3 pounds 9 ounces? So there you go. So I think it was just a different kind of tubing that he was working with at the time. So 3 pounds 9 ounces. That's damn near, I'm pretty sure, the lightest frame I had ever had. So this one is basically the same color as this one. Same colors, except this one is a sponge kind of paint job I did, and this one's more of a brush stroke paint job that I did. So this one, same thing. I think it's the same exact geometry. The only crack that I actually ended up doing, I was wrong. I did end up cracking one of his welds, and this is actually one of the first ones he ever made. What is this? This is the 10th frame he ever made, but the first one he actually ended up giving to the public. The other ones he was actually welding for himself. So did the Infinity logo there because, you know, I've always liked the number 8. And as we get to the crack, as you can see right there, right at the seat tube, going up this guy, it actually went all the way around. I'm not too sure exactly what trick this happened on. Really micro dropouts, mid-bottom bracket, removable tabs all the way around. Same gist, same thing, right? One of my favorite frames. Let's see what the weigh-in is. I'm pretty sure this one is a little bit heavier. If I had to guess, 4 pounds 2 ounces. We're gonna zero this guy out. Zero it out. Hook him on. What does that say? I'm backwards. 4 pounds 2 ounces. So that's a rundown of the handful of frames I've been running over the past 15 years. Let me know what your favorite frame is over the generation that you've been riding, or your current frame that you're riding right now in the comments below. I also need to know, what should I do with these frames? I feel like they're all cracked. I don't just want to throw them away. I was thinking about making some crazy Frankenstein bike that is absolutely insane. Put that in the comments. Put some suggestions in the comments. Let me know. Also, let me know your thoughts on this video, and if you guys like this type of content, me going basically back to the future Back to the Future? No, Back to the Past. I mean, it's kind of like Back to the Future. We're going back, you know what I'm saying. Let me know if you guys like this type of content where I'm going back in time and basically showing some of the old stuff I used to ride and kind of giving you guys a little bit of rundown of where I was at that time and kind of where the generation has changed between then and now. So with that being said, if you're new around here, consider subscribing. I try to do videos daily. I also do session videos, how-tos, will it rides, all types of different content. So if you guys have any suggestions, put those in the comments below. If you guys like this video, drop a like. If you love it, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.